Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. Let's dig in. Here's what's been going on in Russia in the last 24 hours. The big story today is Russia's ongoing attempt to project strength, while the realities on the ground and at home are increasingly fragile. Moscow continues to demand that Ukraine cede control of the Donbass. But behind that unyielding public stance, Russian forces are struggling to maintain momentum. Casualties and manpower strain are high, and even as Russia escalates its operations, analysts note that Kyiv is holding firm, and Ukraine's long-range campaign is creating strategic pressure deep inside Russia. This week, Ukraine extended its campaign into symbolic and economic targets, hitting St. Petersburg just as the city's International Economic Forum opened. Ukrainian drones struck the oil terminal and naval facilities at Kronstadt, home to elements of the Baltic Fleet. Infrastructure was damaged, a few injuries were reported, and Pulkovo Airport temporarily halted operations. The timing was deliberate. St. Petersburg is Putin's hometown, and the forum is meant to showcase Russia as a resilient and modern economy. This attack is an update from previous Ukrainian long-range strikes, highlighting that Kyiv is now able to reach even high-profile political and economic events, demonstrating both capability and intent. Russia's domestic and regional positioning is also under pressure. In Armenia, Putin has warned that pursuing EU integration could jeopardize access to cheap Russian energy. Moscow has temporarily restricted Armenian exports, hinted at removing Armenia from the Eurasian Economic Union, and recalled its envoy. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan continues to deepen ties with the US and Europe, illustrating that Russia's leverage over traditional allies is waning. In parallel, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service claimed that EU pressures are targeting the Russian Orthodox Church in Armenia, signaling Moscow's use of religious and soft power levers to maintain influence. The energy front is increasingly strategic. Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries continue to disrupt domestic processing. Refining capacity at sites including Ilsky in Krasnodar Krai, Novoshakhtinsky, Saratov, and Volgograd has been affected. This has led to temporary gasoline shortages in Belgorod, Kursk, Ryazan, parts of Moscow region, and occupied Crimea. Interestingly, this disruption has coincided with higher Russian crude exports because less oil is being processed domestically, showing how Ukraine's strikes create both operational and economic ripple effects. Belarusian fuel exports to Russia have surged, highlighting Moscow's reliance on external sources to mitigate these pressures. Air defense remains a critical vulnerability for Kyiv. Shortages of Patriot interceptors are being felt globally, with Ukraine at the forefront. Patriots remain Ukraine's primary system against ballistic missiles, and the reduced availability, combined with Russia's continued air campaign, creates a strategic window that Moscow is exploiting. This isn't just about Ukraine. NATO countries and Gulf partners are also affected, and rebuilding stockpiles could take years, keeping the pressure on. Cyber and intelligence operations continue to be a key component of the conflict. The FSB reported uncovering a foreign intelligence operation targeting senior Russian officials' mobile devices, with claims of audio and video monitoring, geolocation, and data exfiltration. Meanwhile, Gamaradon, linked to Russian state actors, continues to deploy malware to Ukrainian networks, including tools for data theft and persistent access. On the chemical and military research front, a former employee of a St. Petersburg pharmaceutical cover facility described experiments with chemical agents and antidote resistance, showing ongoing investment in capabilities below the conventional battlefield. Russia's coordination with North Korea is also evolving. Satellite imagery and reports indicate that a Russian freighter delivered cargo to North Korea's Rason port in a concealed operation, likely connected to arms or dual-use goods supporting the Ukraine war. North Korean and Russian military medics continue exchanging battlefield experience, particularly in medical support, while Ukrainian authorities have confirmed that North Korean prisoners in Ukraine will not be forcibly repatriated. This underscores the broader strategic interplay, where the conflict in Ukraine is shaping regional alignments and military partnerships far beyond the immediate theater. Back in Ukraine, Kyiv continues to apply strategic pressure on Russia's logistical and energy networks. Drone strikes, targeted refinery attacks, and long range precision strikes are forcing Russia to allocate resources defensively while trying to maintain its own industrial and political signals. The St. Petersburg attacks, for instance, are as much about visibility and leverage as they are about operational damage. They tell the world that Ukraine can project power into Russia's economic and political hubs. All of this is happening against a backdrop of political and elite maneuvering within Russia. Public discourse hints at internal stress, even if Moscow's narrative remains unwavering. Commentary that was briefly allowed in state-affiliated outlets suggested that Russia has historically benefited from setbacks at home, signaling to elites the need to balance control with adaptation. That article was quickly removed, showing how tightly the Kremlin manages messaging while attempting to maintain domestic cohesion during this prolonged conflict. Overall, Russia is trying to maintain a veneer of strength with high-profile economic events, continued air campaigns, and coercion of neighboring states and territories. Ukraine is responding by expanding its strategic reach, hitting symbolic targets, and leveraging disruptions in energy and logistics to create both economic and operational pressure. The broader picture is one of escalation, layered with strategic signaling, economic stress, and intelligence operations that reinforce the geopolitical stakes far beyond the immediate battlefield. Thank you for listening and for contributing to the growth of this community. If you found the show valuable, a review or a thoughtful comment helps extend its reach to others. For more in-depth analysis, we publish a daily intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, covering Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Take care and have a great day.